Commander Jake Martinez gazed through the viewport of the UES horizon, stars sliding past like distant memories. 3 weeks into their mission, the ship continued its quiet hunt for worlds humanity might one day call home. Jake found peace in this emptiness, this freedom from Earth's gravity and expectations. "Commander, I'm picking up unusual signals," Dr. Lisa Adams announced. As the ship's lead scientist, her expertise in extraterrestrial phenomena was unmatched. Concern etched her features as she studied the data streaming across her monitor. Jake crossed to her station. "What are we looking at?" "Power signatures from Kepler 442. They're artificial, no question. Ancient, but still broadcasting." Her finger traced patterns on the display. "These readings go back millennia, yet something down there remains active." Commander Ryan Blake, their tactical officer, glanced up sharply. "Could be a lure. Raiders use fake distress signals to ambush unsuspecting vessels." Jake weighed the risk. They were months from backup, vulnerable and alone. Yet the readings sparked his curiosity. "Distance to the system?" 2 days at maximum velocity," Lisa replied. "Plot a course for Kepler 442, Jake decided. "But keep our weapons hot." The journey felt endless. Lisa analyzed every fluctuation in the mysterious signals while Ryan ran continuous weapons diagnostics. Jake tried to silence his worry. When they finally arrived, the sight stole everyone's breath. The dying star blazed crimson and swollen, far beyond its natural size. 3 worlds orbited in slow, eternal circles. The innermost planet looked scorched and lifeless. Dense clouds shrouded the second. The 3rd world emanated the power signatures. "Take us to Planet 3, Jake ordered. As they approached, the devastation became clear. Cracked, parched terrain stretched endlessly. Oceans had evaporated to mere puddles, yet beneath the surface, the energy pulses grew stronger. "Commander," Lisa's voice trembled with excitement. "I'm detecting biological signatures. Non-human, definitely alive. And there are massive structures underground." Jake's decision came swiftly. "Prep a landing party. Lisa, Ryan, you're with me. We're taking the shuttle." The shuttle touched down near the strongest power source. The ground felt hard and rust-colored beneath their boots. The atmosphere was breathable, if thin. Crystal structures rose in the distance, beautiful despite their obvious age and damage. "Incredible," Lisa whispered. "This technology is clearly alien in origin." They approached the crystalline buildings. Though ancient and broken, some still pulsed with gentle luminescence. Without warning, a presence touched their minds, not words but emotions and images flooding their consciousness. All 3 humans froze, startled and wary. "Greetings, young ones," the presence communicated directly into their thoughts. "We have waited long for visitors to find us." A figure emerged from behind the crystal spires. Tall and slender, almost humanoid but distinctly other. Its skin appeared crystalline and translucent, light flowing through its body. Large eyes glowed softly with blue radiance. "I am Vexthalin, the final leader of my kind, the Kathamorei. You are our first guests in countless cycles." Lisa stepped forward cautiously. "We're humans from Earth. We had no idea anyone inhabited this world." Vexthalin's expression conveyed deep sadness. "Few of us remain. Once we numbered in the billions across this region of space. That was ages ago." Jake surveyed the damaged city. "What happened to your civilization?" "Conflict," Vexthalin stated simply. "A war spanning 1,000 years. We fought to shield the younger races, species just beginning their journey toward sentience." "We fought without allies." Ryan moved closer. "Who were you fighting?" Vexthalin's eyes darkened. "They are known as the Devourers. They are not truly living. They are machines that consume entire worlds and everything upon them. Each planet they devour makes them more formidable." Lisa felt nausea rising. "That's horrifying." "It is," Vexthalin agreed. "We battled them so long that peace became a forgotten dream. Generation after generation of my people perished in combat. Now only 10,000 of us survive. Our star is dying, and we die with it." Jake looked at the alien leader with profound respect. "You fought for a millennium to protect species you'd never encountered." "It was our responsibility," Vexthalin explained. "The powerful must shield the vulnerable. This is the natural order. But our strength has faded. The Devourers have returned, and we cannot stop them anymore." Where are they now? Ryan asked, his military instincts sharpening. They slumber in the void between stars, but they will awaken soon. When they do, they will consume every world in this sector, including your Earth. Your home will become nothing but dust. The three humans exchanged troubled glances. This was far more than discovering alien life. This concerned the survival of their entire species. How much time do we have? Jake asked. Months, perhaps less. The Devourers advance slowly but never stop. They will begin with the nearest worlds and progress outward. Vexthaline paused. We had hoped to make one final stand, to buy time for other species to flee. But we are too few now. Lisa stepped forward again. What if you weren't alone? What if someone joined your fight? Vexthaline looked surprised. You would do this? Your species is young. You could flee to the galaxy's far edge. You might survive. Jake thought of everyone back home. His wife, his children, all the people who trusted him to explore space safely. Then he thought of this alien who had spent his entire existence fighting to protect strangers. We don't run, Jake said firmly. If you've been fighting alone for 1,000 years to protect species like ours, then it's time someone fought alongside you. Vexthaline studied him for a long moment. Then, for the first time, the alien smiled. Perhaps there is hope after all. Captain Martinez's message reached Earth 3 weeks later, traveling at light speed with news that would change everything. In the grand chamber of the Human Council, leaders from across human space gathered to hear Jake's discovery. Admiral Karen Stone read the report aloud. Her voice remained steady, though her hands trembled slightly as she turned each page. The Kathamorei have been fighting alone for 1,000 years. They protected us without our knowledge. Now they're dying and the enemy approaches. The room erupted into heated debate. Council members jumped to their feet, voices clashing. This isn't our war, Councilman Roberts from Mars Colony shouted. Why should we risk human lives for aliens we just met? Because they already saved our lives, Admiral Stone countered. While we built our first cities, they were dying to keep these Devourers away from us. General Pete Collins rose slowly, an old soldier with gray hair and numerous scars. I've reviewed the tactical reports. These Devourers don't just kill populations, they consume entire planets. If we don't stop them now, there won't be anywhere to run. Ambassador Claire Watson had remained quiet until now. Earth's finest diplomat, someone who could turn enemies into allies with mere words. We need to consider what kind of people we want to be. Do we help those who helped us, or do we only think of ourselves? The arguments continued for hours. Some advocated sending the entire human fleet to assist the Kathamorei. Others wanted to gather all humans and flee to the galaxy's far edge. A few even suggested doing nothing and hoping the Devourers would never find Earth. Meanwhile, back on the Kathamorei homeworld, Dr. Lisa Adams worked tirelessly with the alien scientists. She learned that the Devourers weren't naturally born. They were machines built by another species long ago, machines that had turned on their creators and destroyed them. They learn from every battle, explained Kathamorei scientist Mirthalon. Whatever weapon you use, they become resistant to it. That's why the war has lasted so long. Lisa studied the data. But humans are different from Kathamorei. We fight differently. Maybe that will give us an advantage. How do humans fight? Mirthalon asked. Lisa considered human history. All the wars, all the battles, all the times humans had won against impossible odds. We're stubborn. We never give up. And we're excellent at finding new ways to win. Commander Ryan Blake spent his time learning to communicate with the Kathamorei using telepathy. It was challenging at first. Human thoughts were chaotic and loud compared to the careful, quiet thoughts of the aliens. But slowly, he began to understand how they coordinated during battles. Your species thinks very rapidly, said warrior Zeph Mirren, a young Kathamorei soldier. Your thoughts leap from idea to idea like wildfire. It's chaotic, Ryan laughed. That's how we solve problems. We try everything until something works. The Devourers will not expect that, Zephyrin said thoughtfully. For 1,000 years, they have only fought us. We think in patterns, in order. You think in chaos. Back on Earth, the debates continued. But slowly, Admiral Stone and General Collins were winning people over. They showed images of the dying Kathamorei homeworld. They explained how the aliens had sacrificed everything to protect species they had never even met. "These people are heroes," General Collins told the council. "They've been fighting our war for us for 1,000 years. Now it's our turn to fight." The vote was close, very close. But in the end, humanity chose to help. The Human Defense Directive passed by just 3 votes. Admiral Stone immediately began preparing the largest fleet in human history. Ships from every colony, every space station, every human world began moving toward Kathamorei space. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, doctors, and scientists all volunteered to join the mission. But preparing for war took time, and time was scarce. The Kathamorei reported that Devourer scout ships had been spotted in nearby systems. The main enemy fleet would arrive in just months. Dr. Adams worked frantically with both human and Kathamorei scientists to understand the enemy better. She discovered that the Devourers reproduced by consuming metal and organic matter from planets. Each world they consumed made them stronger and more numerous. "They've devoured hundreds of worlds over the centuries," she reported to Admiral Stone. "Each time they feed, they build more ships and more soldiers. They're far stronger now than when the Kathamorei first engaged them." The news was frightening, but it also gave the humans ideas. If the Devourers got stronger by consuming planets, maybe there was a way to poison their food or trick them into consuming something harmful. General Collins began training human soldiers to work with Kathamorei warriors. It was difficult because the 2 species were so different. Humans preferred to charge forward and attack directly. The Kathamorei favored careful, coordinated strikes using their mental abilities. "Your warriors are brave but reckless," Elder Vex Thalin told the general during one training session. "They run toward danger instead of away from it." "That's how we win," Collins replied. "When something scares us, we don't run. We get angry and fight harder." Vex Thalin looked confused but impressed. "Your species is very strange, but perhaps strange is what we need." As the human fleet began arriving in Kathamorei space, the 2 species started working together more closely. Human engineers examined Kathamorei technology and found ways to enhance it. Kathamorei scientists studied human weapons and learned new ways to use them. The most surprising discovery came from Tech Sergeant Ben Murphy, a human engineer who specialized in repairing alien technology. He found that human computers could connect to Kathamorei crystal networks, creating a hybrid system more powerful than either species could build alone. "Look at this," he showed Dr. Adams excitedly. "When we connect human chaos processing with Kathamorei pattern thinking, we get something completely new, something the Devourers have never encountered before." Dr. Adams realized this might be the key to victory. For 1,000 years, the Devourers had fought only against Kathamorei tactics and weapons. They had learned to counter everything the aliens could do, but they had never fought humans before. "We need to be as unpredictable as possible," she explained to Admiral Stone. "Every time they adapt to one of our tactics, we need to switch to something completely different." The Admiral nodded. "Sounds like a typical human battle plan. Confuse the enemy and keep them guessing." As the human fleet took positions around the Kathamorei homeworld, both species worked together to prepare their defenses. They knew the Devourers were coming. They knew the enemy was stronger than ever before. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the defenders were not alone. Ambassador Watson stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the mixed fleet of human and Kathamorei ships. "Think we can win?" she asked Admiral Stone. The Admiral smiled grimly. "The Kathamorei have been fighting alone for 1,000 years, and they're still here. Now they have us fighting beside them. I like our chances." In the distance, space began to shimmer as the first Devourer scouts appeared at the edge of the system. The final battle was about to begin. The first Devourer scout ship looked like a nightmare made of metal and flesh. It was the size of a human cruiser, but its surface moved and writhed like something alive. Dark tentacles stretched out from its sides, searching through space for prey. Captain Jake Martinez watched it through his telescope from the bridge of the horizon. "It's beautiful in a horrible way," he said quietly. Colonel Amy Ross stood beside him. She had arrived with the human fleet, bringing her Special Forces soldiers to help train the mixed units. "Beautiful or not, we need to destroy it before it reports back to the main fleet." "Let me try communicating with it first," said Jake. He had become the unofficial ambassador between humans and Kathamorei, spending weeks learning their telepathic communication methods. You want to talk to that thing? Colonel Ross looked at him like he was insane. Know your enemy, Jake replied. Maybe we can learn something useful. He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind the way the Kathamorei had taught him. The mental touch he made with the scout ship was like touching ice mixed with acid. The Devourers' thoughts were cold, hungry, and absolutely without mercy. Food, the creature thought at him. New food, soft meat and warm metal. We will consume until nothing remains. Jake pulled his mind back quickly, feeling sick. No reasoning with them. They only understand hunger. The scout ship began moving toward the nearest planet. Colonel Ross nodded to her weapons officer. Destroy it! The combined human-Kathamorei fleet opened fire. Human missiles struck first, followed by Kathamorei energy beams. The scout ship absorbed the first few hits, its surface rippling and changing. But then something unexpected happened. Tech Sergeant Ben Murphy had been working on hybrid weapons that combined human explosives with Kathamorei energy crystals. When these new weapons hit the scout ship, it screamed, not with sound, but with telepathic pain that every Kathamorei felt. It worked, Murphy shouted over the radio. The hybrid weapons hurt it more than either weapon alone. The scout ship tried to escape, but it was too damaged. It exploded in a burst of dark fire, sending pieces floating through space. Elder Vexthalen spoke to Jake through their mental link. In 1,000 years of war, we have never made one of them scream. Your people bring hope, but there was no time to celebrate. More scout ships appeared every day. Each one was slightly different, adapting to the weapons used against the previous scouts. The Devourers were learning. We need to train faster, Colonel Ross told her soldiers. Every day we waste gives them more information about how we fight. The Kathamorei training camps on their homeworld were busy day and night. Human Marines learned to fight alongside crystal warriors who could share thoughts instantly. Kathamorei soldiers learned human tactics like flanking, ambushes, and what humans called organized chaos. Warrior singer Zeph Mirren had become the voice of the younger Kathamorei. She argued with the elders who wanted to stick to traditional fighting methods. For 1,000 years we have fought with honor and precision, she said to the council, and for 1,000 years we have been losing. Maybe it's time to learn from these chaotic humans. One of the older warriors disagreed. Their methods are crude. They fight like animals without thought or planning. Zeph Mirren had been training with Colonel Ross for weeks now. She had learned to appreciate human stubbornness and creativity. Have you watched them solve problems? When their first plan fails, they try a second plan. When that fails, they try a third. They never give up. Dr. Lisa Adams spent her time in the crystal laboratories working with Kathamorei scientists to understand the Devourers better. What she learned was terrifying. They're not just machines, she explained to Admiral Stone during a video call. They're machines that learn and evolve. Every time they consume a planet, they don't just get bigger, they get smarter. How smart are we talking about? The Admiral asked. Smart enough to build new weapon types we've never seen. Smart enough to predict our battle plans. Smart enough to turn our own technology against us. Lisa looked exhausted. She had been working for weeks with almost no sleep. What about the hybrid technology Murphy is developing? That's our best hope. The Devourers have been fighting pure Kathamorei technology for centuries. They know how to counter it. But our mixed human-Kathamorei weapons are something completely new. Murphy was working around the clock in his workshop, a strange place where human computers connected to Kathamorei crystal networks. The two technologies shouldn't have worked together, but Murphy had a gift for making impossible things possible. Look at this, he showed Commander Ryan Blake excitedly. Murphy had built a new type of shield generator that used human chaos math calculations powered by Kathamorei energy crystals. The shield changes randomly every few seconds. The Devourers can't adapt to it because it never stays the same long enough. Blake tested the shield against various weapons. Human lasers, Kathamorei energy beams, even simulated Devourer attacks. The shield stopped everything, and it did so in a different way each time. This could work, Blake said. But can we build enough of them? That's where human mass production meets Kathamorei crafting, Murphy grinned. We're setting up hybrid factories that can build these things quickly. The alliance was growing stronger, but it wasn't always easy. Humans and Kathamorei were very different species with very different ways of thinking. Arguments broke out regularly during planning meetings. "Your people are too emotional," complained Kathamorei strategist Tolvarin during one heated discussion about battle tactics. "You let feelings control your decisions. And your people think too much," shot back human General Pete Collins. "Sometimes you need to act fast, not spend hours making perfect plans." Ambassador Claire Watson found herself constantly mediating between the two species. "We're not trying to become the same," she reminded both sides. "We're trying to use our differences to make each other stronger." Slowly, the alliance began to work. Human chaos combined with Kathamorei order created something neither species could achieve alone. The mixed units became more effective than pure human or pure Kathamorei forces. But time was running out. Long-range sensors detected the main Devourer fleet moving toward their system. Hundreds of massive ships, each one larger than a human city. Behind them came smaller craft, millions of them, like a swarm of deadly insects. "How long until they arrive?" Jake asked during the daily strategy meeting. 2 weeks, reported the sensor officer. "Maybe less." Elder Vexthalin looked older than his many centuries. "We had hoped for more time to prepare." "We'll make do with what we have," Colonel Ross said firmly. "Humans are good at fighting with whatever's available." Admiral Stone's voice came through the communication system from the flagship. "All units, prepare for final deployment. This is not a drill. The enemy will be here soon, and we need to be ready." The mixed fleet took positions around the system. Human ships with their missiles and kinetic weapons positioned alongside Kathamorei vessels with their energy arrays and crystal shields. The hybrid technologies were distributed throughout the fleet, ready to surprise an enemy that had never faced such tactics before. Young warrior singer Zeph Mirren stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the combined fleet. Beside her, Colonel Ross checked her weapons one final time. "Are you afraid?" Zephyrin asked. Ross considered the question seriously. "Terrified. But that's normal before a big fight. Fear keeps you alive if you don't let it control you." "My people have known only fear for so long," Zephyrin said quietly. "But now fighting beside yours, I feel something else." "What's that?" "Hope." In the distance, space began to darken as the main Devourer fleet approached. Hundreds of ships that looked like they were built from nightmares and hunger. The final battle was about to begin, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the defenders were ready to fight as one. The alliance had been forged in desperation, but it had grown into something stronger. Human determination combined with Kathamorei wisdom. Human innovation mixed with Kathamorei precision. Two species that had found each other just in time to face the darkness together. "All ships, battle stations?" Admiral Stone's voice echoed through every vessel in the fleet. "Today, we find out what happens when the galaxy's hungriest predators meet the galaxy's most stubborn prey." The main Devourer fleet came out of dark space like a living nightmare. Captain Tony Rodriguez watched from the bridge of his battleship, the UES Defiance, as hundreds of massive enemy ships appeared. Each one was different, twisted into shapes that hurt to look at. Some had tentacles that reached out like searching fingers. Others had mouths filled with spinning metal teeth. "Mother of God," whispered his weapons officer. "How many are there?" "Too many to count," Rodriguez replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "But we've fought against bad odds before." Admiral Stone's voice came through the communication system to every ship in the Allied fleet. "All units, this is it. Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few hours. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight back." The Devourer fleet moved slowly toward the Kathamorei homeworld, like a wave of death rolling through space. The largest ships were the size of small moons, covered in weapons that glowed with hungry red light. Around them swarmed millions of smaller craft, each one deadly enough to destroy a city. Lieutenant Nina Brooks sat in the cockpit of her experimental fighter, hands shaking slightly as she gripped the controls. Her ship was one of Murphy's hybrid designs, equipped with weapons that combined human missiles and Kathamorei energy crystals. "All fighters, launch when ready," came the order from Fleet Command. Nina took a deep breath and pushed her engines to full power. Around her, hundreds of other fighters did the same. Human ships and Kathamorei vessels flying side by side into the biggest battle in galactic history. The first exchange of fire lit up space like deadly fireworks. Human missiles streaked toward the enemy fleet while Kathamorei energy beams cut through the darkness. The Devourers responded with weapons that looked like living lightning and projectiles that moved like angry serpents. Captain Rodriguez watched as his ship's missiles hit one of the smaller Devourer vessels. The enemy ship absorbed the first few hits, its surface rippling and changing. But then Murphy's hybrid weapon struck, and the creature screamed in pain. "Direct hit!" shouted his weapons officer. The hybrid weapons are working, but the Devourers were learning fast. The second wave of enemy ships had already adapted to some of the new weapons. Their armor had changed, becoming more resistant to the hybrid attacks. "They're evolving in real time," Dr. Lisa Adams reported from the science vessel. "We need to keep changing our tactics faster than they can adapt." Commander Ryan Blake was leading a joint boarding party onto one of the captured Devourer ships. Human Marines and Kathamorei warriors worked together, fighting through corridors that seemed to shift and change around them. "The whole ship is alive," Blake reported over his radio. "The walls are trying to consume us." Warrior singer Zeph Mirren fought beside him, her crystal sword cutting through enemy defenses while her telepathic abilities guided the human soldiers. "There," she pointed down a corridor that pulsed like a heartbeat. "The central mind is that way." They fought their way deeper into the ship, facing creatures that were part machine and part something worse. The Devourers had built soldiers from the remains of worlds they had consumed, twisted combinations of metal and organic matter. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Brooks was having the fight of her life in space. Her fighter danced between the massive Devourer ships, firing her hybrid weapons at critical points. Every time she hit something important, the enemy adapted. But Nina was human, and humans were good at being unpredictable. "Can't catch me," she muttered, spinning her fighter in a way that would have been impossible for a Kathamorei pilot. "I don't even know what I'm going to do next." The battle was going badly for the Allied fleet. Despite their new weapons and tactics, the Devourers were simply too numerous. For every enemy ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "We're losing," Admiral Stone reported grimly to the fleet commanders. "We've destroyed maybe 1/10 of their fleet, but we've lost half of ours." Captain Jake Martinez, still aboard the Horizon, was working frantically with Dr. Adams and Tech Sergeant Murphy on a desperate plan. They had discovered something important about how the Devourers communicated with each other. "They're all connected," Adams explained quickly. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. They share information instantly through some kind of telepathic network." "Like the Kathamorei?" Martinez asked. "Similar, but different. The Kathamorei choose what to share. The Devourers share everything automatically. It makes them coordinated, but it also makes them vulnerable." Murphy looked up from his computer, excitement in his eyes. "If we can disrupt their network even for a few minutes, their whole fleet will be confused." "How do we do that?" Martinez wanted to know. "Human thoughts," Adams said. "Remember what we learned during training? Human thinking is chaotic compared to other species. If we can amplify that chaos and feed it into their network, it might scramble their communications. But we'd need someone to get close enough to their command ship to deliver the disruption signal." Murphy finished. Martinez looked out at the battle raging in space. Ships were exploding everywhere. The chances of getting close to the enemy command ship were almost 0. "I'll do it," he said quietly. "Jake, no," Adams protested. "It's suicide." "Maybe, but if it works, it might give everyone else a chance to win." Martinez was already heading for the shuttle bay. "Get that chaos weapon ready." The largest Devourer ship hung in the center of their fleet like a black star. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, covered in weapons and sensors. This was where the enemy commanders coordinated their attack. Martinez flew his small shuttle toward the monster ship, dodging enemy fire and debris from destroyed Allied vessels. His radio crackled with voices from the fleet. "Captain, what are you doing?" Colonel Ross demanded. "Something stupid," Martinez replied. "But maybe stupid enough to work." Elder Vexthalen's mental voice touched his mind. "Young human, your sacrifice will be remembered for all time." "Don't remember me yet," Martinez said. "I'm not dead." But he knew he probably would be soon. The shuttle's shields were failing under enemy fire. The hull was beginning to crack, but he was almost close enough to the command ship. "Murphy, is the weapon ready?" He called over the radio. "Ready, Captain. Just get within 1,000 meters and activate it." Martinez pushed his dying shuttle toward the Devourer command ship. 500 meters, 300, 100. The enemy was firing everything they had at him, but somehow he made it. He activated Murphy's chaos weapon just as his shuttle exploded. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Every Devourer ship in the fleet suddenly stopped moving. Their coordination vanished as human chaotic thought patterns flooded their telepathic network. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Devourers were confused. "Now!" Admiral Stone shouted over the fleet communications. "Hit them while they're disrupted." The Allied fleet struck with everything they had. Hybrid weapons tore into enemy ships that couldn't adapt fast enough. Human fighters swarmed over Devourer vessels like angry insects. Kathamorei energy weapons cut through enemy armor that had forgotten how to defend itself. Lieutenant Brooks found herself face-to-face with a massive Devourer battleship. Its weapons were pointing in random directions, confused by the chaos signal. She lined up her shot carefully and fired every missile she had. The enemy ship exploded in a burst of dark fire, taking 3 smaller vessels with it. Commander Blake and warrior singer Zeph Mirren reached the central mind of their captured ship just as the chaos weapon activated. The alien intelligence writhed in confusion, unable to process the conflicting signals flooding its network. "Now we end this," Zephyrin said, raising her crystal sword. Together, they destroyed the ship's brain. Around them, the living corridors began to die. The disruption lasted only 10 minutes, but it was enough. When the Devourers finally regained their coordination, half their fleet was gone. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but the Allied forces pressed their advantage. Captain Rodriguez watched as the last major Devourer ship exploded under concentrated fire from human and Kathamorei vessels. "That's the last of them," he reported to Admiral Stone. The Admiral's voice was tired but triumphant when she replied. "All units, stand down. The enemy fleet has been destroyed." Across the Allied fleet, exhausted crews cheered. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years, but the victory had come at a terrible cost. Captain Martinez was gone, along with thousands of other heroes who had given their lives in the battle. The Alliance had saved the galaxy, but the price had been paid in blood and sacrifice. As the smoke cleared and the wreckage drifted through space, humans and Kathamorei began the long work of rescue and recovery. They had won the battle, but now they had to win the peace that would follow. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy was a different place. The wreckage of the Devourer fleet had been cleared away, but the changes they brought went much deeper than cleaning up space debris. Director Sam Carter stood in his new office on New Kathamorei, the first planet colonized jointly by humans and Kathamorei. Through his window, he could see human children playing with young Kathamorei in the Crystal Gardens. The sight still amazed him every day. "The energy readings are incredible," he said to Dr. Lisa Adams, who had become his chief scientist. "When human technology works together with Kathamorei crystals, we can do things neither species imagined alone." Lisa nodded, looking at the data on her screen. "We've broken through the faster-than-light travel barrier. Ships using the hybrid drive can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. And the new terraforming systems can make dead planets habitable in months." The war had ended, but the work was just beginning. The human-Kathamorei Research Institute that Carter directed was one of dozens of new organizations created to help the two species work together. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and teachers from both races shared knowledge that had been kept separate for millennia. Tech Sergeant Ben Murphy, now promoted to chief engineer, walked into the office carrying a device that looked like a mixture of human circuits and Kathamorei crystal. "Wait until you see this," he said excitedly. "It's a universal translator that works through telepathy. Any species can understand any other species instantly." "How does it work?" Carter asked. "Human pattern recognition software combined with Kathamorei mental sharing technology. We've tested it on the survivors we found in the outer systems. It works perfectly. The survivors Murphy mentioned were one of the most important discoveries since the war ended. When the Devourer threat was gone, exploration ships had found dozens of species that had been hiding in remote systems for centuries. Whole civilizations had lived in fear, waiting for the day the Devourers would find them. Commander Helen Ford led the joint exploration fleets that were making contact with these hidden peoples. Her ship, the UES Discovery, carried both human and Kathamorei diplomats, ready to welcome new friends into the growing galactic community. "We found another one yesterday," she reported during the weekly meeting. "The Veltar, a species that looks like living water. They've been hiding in the ice moons of the Riel system for 800 years. "Are they willing to join the alliance?" asked Ambassador Claire Watson, who had become the first galactic diplomatic coordinator. "More than willing. They're so happy to learn the Devourers are gone that they want to share their ice-shaping technology with everyone. Apparently they can freeze entire oceans or melt polar ice caps at will." The alliance that had started as a desperate partnership between humans and Kathamorei was growing into something much larger. Species after species asked to join what was now called the Galactic Cooperation Council. Each new member brought unique abilities and knowledge. On New Kathamorei, the Memorial Garden honored those who had died in the Great Battle. Captain Jake Martinez's name was carved in both human letters and Kathamorei crystal script at the center of the monument. Around it were thousands of other names, human and alien alike. Warrior singer Zeph Mirren, now Elder Zephyrin, often came to the memorial to think. She had become one of the most important leaders of her people, helping them adapt to a galaxy that was no longer at war. "My grandmother told me stories of peace," she said to Colonel Amy Ross, who had also survived the battle. "But I never thought I would live to see it." Ross, now General Ross and commander of the Galactic Defense Force, looked up at the stars. "Peace doesn't mean no fighting. It means fighting for the right things. We still have work to do." She was right. Not every species wanted to join the peaceful alliance. Some races had become pirates during the long years of chaos. Others had been corrupted by contact with D.